So we know all the struggles because we've lived them. It's somebody from their community that understands them, being out there for them, speaking for them.
It'll serve the community, but it also serves that organization that is trying to do the outreach. Having these community voices at the table makes a big difference.
Que uno se gana la confianza de la comunidad. Y cuando tú te ganas la confianza de la comunidad, puedes hacer muchas cosas.
Please welcome our community council members here in the Rio Grande Valley, Aurelia Iracheta and Gabby Martinez.
Hi, hello.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a long time in the making. How are we feeling?
Nervous.
Nervous. Muy bien.
Yeah.
Nerviosos, pero aquí estamos.
But you know, anytime there's a camera involved, sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating. But you know, we joke, it's not live TV. We're having a great conversation about the work that you guys do. So I can't thank you enough as we get into talking a little bit more about the work that you guys do here in the Rio Grande Valley. But you know, for context, we're here at Proyecto Juan Diego. It's a nonprofit organization in Brownsville. A little bit about Proyecto Juan Diego. It's they help low-income families, specifically with areas and providing services to education, healthcare, immigration, and so much more. But Aurelia, you can tell me a little bit more about this because you're affiliated with this organization. What is it that you do, and tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, so for us here at Proyecto, it's good to have people that are, encouraged to be involved in the community, basically. So we try to educate them and then empower them, but then also to be involved in the community. So my role here is as a civic engagement coordinator. So that's basically what I do, right? So I every participant that comes here gets an opportunity to take classes for free. Most of them are for free. But then not only, like, they might be here asking for exercise classes, but for that exercise class, we don't just do the exercise. We also look at their blood pressure. We also take care of their A1Cs. And if they need to be referred somewhere where they don't have a medical home, we refer them out as well. And then if somebody comes out that they have high blood pressure or diabetes, there's also different classes that go on for them. So it's just a one-stop for everything.
Like comprehensive services.
Yes.
That's great to have an organization like that and assisting so many people here in the Rio Grande Valley who really do need it. And I know you talked a little bit about the voting. You help them understand those ballots and what's on the ballot.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that as well.
So for the civic engagement part, I work a lot with the citizenship classes. So one part is becoming a U.S. citizen, and that's fine. We want to have a lot of U.S. citizens, but we don't want to have just U.S. citizens without being an involved voter. So we want to make sure that they're active voters once they become U.S. citizens. And it helps a lot because we teach them as the mock voting. We bring in the Cameron County Elections Department, and they go through the whole process as a practice if they were going to vote. And we also, go over the ballots, and then we teach them everything step by step as what to do. Like I was telling you, is because I made the mistake of going into for the first time to vote. After being here for 39 years, I finally became a U.S. citizen, and then I made the mistake of going without my ID to them. And that's something that everybody, could have done the same mistake. So we all learn from my mistake for sure.
But you know what, you mentioned you had to walk back, and in the heat here in the valley, it can be very hot here. So, I love that the dedication to vote, and then also just the dedication to the community. So it's great that you guys are doing that here at Proyecto. I know that.
I always ask them, do you guys want to go walking or you want to go in the car? My hopes are always wanting to go in the car, but they never want to go in the car. They always want to go walking.
Hey, get those steps in, and get those steps in with a purpose. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And, I can't thank you guys enough, and thank Proyecto for having us here as we have this conversation about Methodist Healthcare Ministries Community Council members. A little bit of an overview as to why we selected the Community Council member as the focus of this conversation is because on our website, you will see it on our guiding principles. MHM is all about partnerships, specifically with people with lived experiences. And those lived experiences really help the community. It helps a board, that is our board of directors, really understand the community better. It's interesting as we talk about the Rio Grande Valley because it is such a diverse place. Yes. We have 12 community council members here, and I'm sure, Gabby, you're in Starr County, you're in Cameron County.
Yes.
Each area is very different, but we know there are gaps in resources, specifically along the U.S.-Mexico border in areas that are called colonias. You know, we had the board of directors travel down to the Rio Grande Valley in March, and it was a really important trip for these board of directors to get a chance to see the Rio Grande Valley and meet with some of the people in some of these areas. But this was a long time coming, a lot of preparation, planning, and presentations to the board of directors, and you were part of that presentation, Gabby. Tell me how all of this happened. How did the presentation go, and what were some of the things that you brought to their attention?
Bueno, para nosotros fue algo, una experiencia inolvidable porque para mí fue un sueño hecho realidad en mi vida personal porque hicimos mucha preparación, estuvimos 10 meses antes preparándonos para todo y fue algo como que decíamos nosotros, no vamos a tener nervios, pero cuando ya fue el gran día, entonces ese día yo estaba calladita y no hablaba, pero decían ellos, ¿qué tiene Gaby? Decían, no, pues estamos todos bien, pero Gaby está muy nerviosa. Sí estaba nerviosa, pero lo que hicimos nosotros era orar antes porque para esta institución es lo más importante, eso es lo que me gusta con MChem, que llevan a Dios por delante, siempre Dios primero. Entonces, esa es una de las cosas que yo amo de nuestro concilio y de MChem que nos han apoyado muchísimo. Lo hicimos, entonces cuando fuimos a hacer la presentación, nos fue tan bien que nosotros nos creíamos que éramos unas estrellas de cine porque nos aplaudieron, nos innovaron muchísimo y fue todo un éxito para nosotros en nuestra vida porque eso nos ayudó muchísimo en nuestro concilio a poder seguir avanzando. Hemos avanzado muchísimo, hemos tenido muchas experiencias en el concilio como dos de nuestras compañeras se hicieron promotoras de salud. Era algo que genial para nosotros. Aplaudimos tanto eso porque hemos llevado muchas cosas a cabo. Mi compañera Aurelia no me deja mentir que hemos hecho muchas cosas a través del concilio. Hemos estado trabajando pego a pego con todas nosotros porque amamos nuestra comunidad. Eso es algo que nosotros estamos haciendo, ayudar a nuestra comunidad, hacer la voz de ellos, porque mucha gente a veces piensa que su problema no es importante, pero cuando nosotros vimos esta oportunidad con la mesa directiva, fue la experiencia mejor y fue nuestra oportunidad, como quien dice, una puerta abierta para nuestra comunidad, porque eso hizo que trajéramos muchas ayudas. A través de eso que nosotros hicimos, esa presentación, lo dijimos en a la mesa directiva, cuando hicimos esa presentación, queríamos nosotros ayudar a la gente a tener más recursos para nuestros condados, que pues son 6 condados los que nosotros estamos tratando de ayudar. Y lo pudimos hacer a través de eso. Hicimos compañerismo con CompuDup. Ellos nos ayudaron con computadoras para nuestra comunidad. Y una de las experiencias que yo tengo que me ha ayudado muchísimo es de que la gente ha venido y me ha dicho, Gaby, gracias por las computadoras que nos dieron. Y una de las historias que yo tengo que me hizo sentir tan bonito fue que una de las personas me vino y me dice, era una abuelita, y me dice, señora Gaby, dice, yo quiero decirle una cosa, y me agarra de la mano y me dice, yo quiero darle las gracias a usted por habernos traído esa ayuda, porque yo no sabía cómo le iba a hacer para ayudarle a mi nieta a ir al colegio sin una computadora, porque eso es lo primero que les pidieron a ellos. Entonces yo decía, ¿yo cómo le voy a hacer? Y cuando yo vi esta oportunidad, usted andaba dando los folletos y usted nos decía, vayan, porque nosotros le tenemos confianza a usted, porque si hubiera venido alguien más, yo no les creía, yo hasta que usted me lo dijo. Y esa es una de las cosas que uno se gana, la confianza de la comunidad. Y cuando tú te ganas la confianza de la comunidad, puedes hacer muchas cosas, y llegar a muy, muy, muy lejos con ellos, porque ellos se abren hacia ti y te van a dejar que los ayudes. Entonces, cuando ella me dice, mi nieta ya pudo ir al colegio con esta computadora, yo me sentí feliz y agradecida y eso dije, esto hizo un gran impacto. No fue chiquito, pero fue algo grandísimo porque todo lo que estamos haciendo es para ayudar a la comunidad y somos todos 12 miembros del concilio que estamos tratando de ayudar a todas estas personas que nos lo agradecen y cuando la gente te lo agradece de esa manera, te llevas un sabor de boca tan lindo y en tu corazón te llenas de gusto. La vez pasada estábamos hablando yo y mi compañera Aurelia y decíamos, ¿verdad? No sé si a ti te pasa de que cuando no puedes ayudar a una persona, no te pones a llorar. Dice, sí, yo me pongo a llorar. Y le digo, ¿verdad? Dice, sí, pero cuando ya te viene a decir, pero usted trató todo lo posible y eso es lo que yo agradezco. Entonces es cuando uno dice, estamos haciendo algo bien.
I love that you talk about bringing voices to the table. It's about the people, right? Bringing voices to the table and making sure that they matter and that they matter in the partnerships that can form from this. And I think that's what's really interesting about the community council members. You know, obviously for MHM, you guys paint the picture for our board of directors, being able to show them what's happening down here in the Rio Grande Valley, introducing them to people, but also, you know, making those connections on your own. And I want to talk a little bit about that work in general. I mean, what does the work of a community council member consist of?
It's basically being that gap of those that they don't have the confidence. We don't have the confidence all the time, right? But we have to be tough or try to be tough for them so that the community that doesn't have that confidence to speak to someone trusts us. Like Abby was saying, it's just the trust that they have in us that they come here and they and it's not only work related, but also I work out of the house all the time because the people in my community trust me so that they can ask me questions, not in privately, so that we can be there for them for the resources. So basically, with the community council is being able to learn. I learned a lot from our first meeting just because I didn't know all the other resources that were available in other areas. So it's like stuff that they have that we don't have here in Cameron County that it's like, okay, well, we want that, right? But then there's stuff that they didn't have that we have, but then people from their area can use it here, which is really good that we were able to interchange that information and resources that were available for the community.
And what's interesting is that you guys have partnerships with each other too. I mean, you obviously know each other very well, but it's assisting each other. Even though you guys are not focused in the same counties, you are still able to assist each other with different needs and connecting to different resources, which is better for the overall communities here in the Rio Grande Valley. You know, I know we talked a little bit about the statistics that, you know, here in the Valley, but as you know, the Valley is such a big place. No county is the same, although we share a commonality in culture. There could be differences just in the way that people are living. But I want to talk about what that work looks like for you here in Cameron County. What are some of the unique things that you find as a community council member?
The good thing here is like right now that I'm working here at Proyecto, the thing is that we love the way that we partner up with other nonprofits. So it's always here, my supervisors always wanting to help nonprofits helping nonprofits, right? Because we all know the struggle. We don't have grants. We don't have enough money to cover all the needs. So if my resource can help another nonprofit, then we partner up so that we can help that, right? And it's really good to have that good communication with all the nonprofits so that we know what services they're offering based what we have available, right? And which we saw it a lot with the counseling services. Many of the organizations lost a lot of grants because of federal funding. Thank God we're not part of that cuts, but we were able to add more days here for the counseling, which for me was my success to go for the council and talk to the board. And the one thing is that they take us in consideration what we're telling them, because there could be many boards, right? And they're there for their purpose, but this board is different because they're there to hear us out. And not only to hear us out, but also act on it, which is really, really good. And here in Cameron County, I would always fight with other, you know, when we were in meetings where I'm in a coalition meeting and I'm like, well, why does Willis have all the resources, you know, or why does that will have all the, but then you get to understand once you go to work with them, you understand why there's more of resources over there than here. Like you said, we're the biggest county, I guess, so that's the reason the resources here are not enough. Because we get the same resources as a smaller county. does. So
I see. So there's a lot of towns. There's more
Yes.
population. There's maybe more grocery stores than there may be like in rural counties.
yes.
Like a rural county like Willacy or further up north. So that and it's interesting to see the connections that you're able to make also with the local organizations here. So
Yes.
you're boots on the ground sometimes.
Yes.
How does that work? Are you going to different nonprofit organizations and just knocking on the door saying, "Hey, I'm with Methodist Healthcare Ministries Community Council"? How does that work?
No, what it is that we're working together in different coalitions that can serve our participants here. But then I'm fortunate enough to be part of the council, and my boss lets me be also advocate for my neighborhood, which is a colonia, right? So I'm not only here as an employee, but I'm also here as a community member, which I get to understand a lot of the needs that come into the door. And so I know a lot of my neighbors, by just researching, they need help with something. I research it, and then sometimes somebody comes in here and needs that help, and I'm like, I heard it that over there they're helping, So it's just being that 2-1 walking 2-1-1 for them.
Yeah.
Basically, just being out there, learning about all the resources that there is, and that's the good thing about us because we like to network, and
Yes.
going to all the meetings, we're networking to see what each company has to offer. What the community members that are just community members that are not working at any organization, we learn so much from them also because they bring a lot to the table, like what the struggles are and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's like, again, bringing those voices to the table.
Yes.
That's what Gabby and I were talking about a little bit earlier before this conversation took place. But, you touched on it earlier, but I want to talk about why it's important for the community to have somebody like from the community speak on their behalf or speak and bring awareness to some of the things that they're experiencing. Why is that important for the community, you think?
I think it's important because we know firsthand what's happening in the community. We have the same struggles of any participant does, and we go on our daily life with all the struggles that they do. We have mixed families where I live. We have a lot of mixed families. So my family is a mixed family as well. So I know the fear of going out to work especially right now with all the raids. I know the fear of struggling with food. I know when we used to not have a good house. The struggle of a hurricane coming and your house is gonna fly away. So we know all the struggles because we've lived them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for them to understand that it's somebody from their community that understands them, being out there for them, speaking for them, because you have the same needs for them than they do.
The lived experience, yes. Right? That's where it comes into play. And
I always tell them in the neighborhood, there's so many organizations from like New York and stuff like that want to come and work at the right neighborhood. And I always tell them, like, if they see you and you're an outsider, they're not even going to open the door. So at least have one of the volunteers go with you so that they can open the door. Because if a volunteer from the community doesn't go, you're like a stranger to them. So you're a threat to them because they don't know who you are. They don't, so they don't have that trust. It's just like Gabby was saying, when the CompuDot happened, people were getting text messages from another number that wasn't Proyecto. And they're like, do we trust it? They will screenshot it, send it to us. Like, yes, please answer, But it was important for them to understand and trust us that, yes, it's legit, we're giving you the okay we know that it's because we already happened.
Right.
We saw it happen and,
yes.
And it's working. But it's weird because it's a lot of people want to work in their communities, but they come from outsiders, and you don't get to understand, like San Antonio doesn't have the same struggles that the Valley has. Somebody from Houston doesn't have the same struggles. So it's important to be somebody local that knows the needs and has lived it in order for the community to trust you.
Right. And again, it's like you said, having that familiar face with you will help and serve you. And it'll serve the community, but it also serves that organization that is trying to do the outreach, right?
Yes.
It's trying to meet with the people to get a better understanding. So having these community voices at the table makes a big difference in that work. You talked a lot about trust, and sometimes it's hard to build that trust with the community. You had told me a story a while back, because we've obviously been having these conversations for a while. You can tell we all know each other pretty well now. But you mentioned a story about just connecting people to resources. What stories of impact do you feel like you want to share right now? Because I know there was one regarding a doctor, and there was a language barrier in place. Talk to me about that story, because it speaks a lot about the culture.
Yeah, so they're at Ventry, where the community that I work with, we have a doctor going in to doing, he he was in Harlingen doing his visits over there, and then our people would have to go all the way over there, right? But of course, transportation is a barrier, and then with immigration right now, how it is, nobody wants to travel. So this doctor took his time to come and survey the area, right? So when he came in, nobody would open the door for him because he was a abuelito, right? And somebody from an outsider, that who knows who it is, right? So, and then we live so close to the border that they thought it was immigration knocking on the door, right? So then I had to post it on our page, and I told them, I said, Dr. Robertson is walking around in the neighborhood. If you need help with doctor visits, it's for free. You can open the door. This is how he looks and stuff like that. So then he finally got patients to sign up with him, and he saw the need. So he now goes for the Ventry area once a month, and his services are free. He doesn't charge us anything. So, and then volunteers, he has a lot of volunteers, right? I'm grateful that I'm able to volunteer a lot. So my work allows me to volunteer with them. So we were doing the food distribution, but there was one participant that didn't know any English, and then the doctor didn't understand his Spanish. So the doctor speaks Spanish, but they didn't understand his Spanish because there are some accents that are very strong, right? So I was there. Thank God I was there volunteering for the food pantry, and I was able to assist the doctor with understanding what he was needing.
Be the translator.
Translator, yes. Yeah. Which when I was growing up, that's what I was doing because I lived in Ingleside, Texas, and everybody over there doesn't speak Spanish. So my community was all Spanish speaking because they were all work at the same place. And I was always their translator for schools and stuff like that.
Wow. So you've been doing this all your life, your life, bridging the gaps. And so I see, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but, it's that higher calling, when you already have the paths to do it, and then you find a way to be able to actually do it and advocate for those voices. That's amazing. And you're right. I mean, sometimes it's about building trust, and that's how you do it. Sometimes it's having the face of the community, a community member to bridge the gaps there. And I know that you talked a little bit about living in a colonia, and I want to talk more about your lived experience. What lived experience can you share with us, and how has that lived experience guided you in the work that you do right here in Cameron County?
Just the struggle. I mean, the struggles, because I used to work at a lot of places before I started working here, and I would always tell my husband, right, it's not the job for me, and I would quit a year after, and he's like, whenever I started working here, I had been a parent volunteer for 3 years because I had a preemie baby. So he had to go a lot of doctor's visits and stuff like that. So that's how I started knowing more about what a promotora was and stuff like that, right? So I was a parent volunteer for 3 years, and then I met Proyecto, and Sister Phyllis at that point was our director. She was very stubborn, she's still very stubborn. And I met her at an immigration rally, just advocating for immigrants and stuff like that. And she's like, I need you to work for me. And I said, I don't want to work. I'm very happy at home, being a volunteer full time, because I was a volunteer full time for the school and then for my community. And she's like, okay, well, I need you to apply. I'm like, yes, I'll go ahead. So then that happened. I never applied because I didn't want to work. After a month, they sent me as a part of the volunteers. I went to Georgia to a Margaret Casey Foundation event, which is a huge event, a lot of money, and I was there for the first time. That was my first time flying on a plane, taking a subway, and then being on the train for the first time all together. Yeah, that's a lot. So, and then I saw Sister Phyllis there at the airport again, and she's like, I'm still waiting for your application. And I'm like, I know, but I don't want to work, I'm fine like this, and she's like, okay. So we went on, and then we had the event for 3 days. I was in Georgia by myself with all my boys. And we came back, and she's like, I expect your application on Monday.
She really wanted you.
Yes. Wow. So that was 11 years ago, and I'm now here for 11 years serving. And I always would pray. I said I would pray to God. I was very, very selfish, and I would say, I need a job that doesn't give me a lot of hours, but pays me good, but allows me to volunteer and work with the community. And I was like very chiflada, right? And I'm asking for too much, hoping that he doesn't give me a job like that, but he did. Yes. Yeah. And 11 years I'm here and serving the community the way I wanted to, making good money. And of course I work more now because I work here and I work at my community, but I love it and I don't complain about it. I volunteer a lot of my time because I wouldn't ask volunteers to volunteer if I'm not volunteering. Yes.
Right.
Right. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's sometimes, God's plan is bigger than the plan that we have for ourselves. And, you were being called to do this work. And, it goes back to your experience has helped you in this work that you do. And it's just, I hear it in your voice. I think that we see it when we see these, that people are coming to speak up more because of the work of community council members.
We learn more from our participants than what they learn from us.
It's not about having a title to make a difference. It's not about any of that, because you can help anybody out. You just have to have the support and sometimes build up from there.
Y yo pienso que el que lo hace con amor, ya lo hiciste todo. No existe barrera mientras tengamos a Dios en nuestro corazón.